such a horrible and heinous thing to have to face a level of discrimination because you're othered, because you're viewed as someone that's different. And this is partly what's wrong with the communities today. We've become so polarised that we see people's difference and we don't see people's similarities. And for me, it's not just about the policing, it's actually about a whole society approach. Because if we can actually change that and actually make sure that more and more people feel comfortable with each other, then you will find less and less attacks that happen to you. Now, in relation to the policing itself, we have to hold them to account. Every time something happens that is wrong, they need to be in the space, in the room, and hearing our concerns. At Redbridge. I've also done projects in Leyton around stop and search, helping out masses of community groups. I run local campaigns. I've been part of the Wanstead Youth Centre campaign. I'm just trying to think, there's loads of things. But I am a product of this area. So, and why I put my hat in the ring was exactly that. Because I looked at what was going to be available when John Christ stepped down. I said, actually, you know what? I'm from here. I want my name to be on the ballot paper as an independent person, an independent voice for the area, to make sure that if nobody else, then at least people that know me can put a tick next to my name because I'm from here. Schools, because the quality of education will be equal right across the board. That's my personal utopia. However, that's not the case. So in order to actually ensure that parents who elect to send their children to private school have a fair chance of this, it's actually a much wider conversation, and this would be why I would have the assembly model, because I put the conversation to the people and I'd make sure that people's voices were heard on this one, because it's only right that we are actually able to discuss this. And given the fact that in the room I see teachers here today, you are at the front line and you know what the issues are. It's got to be about what we need and what we want, and this is why we have the assembly model, because it would give us a chance to have that discussion. I believe that it could bring a lot of noise pollution. I believe that there is a limited space actually at City Airport to do the expansion in the first place, and I believe that it was a massive oversight to only consult Newham, considering that we are going to be impacted by that. When they did the Stansted Airport development, they actually consulted us, so why on earth are they not doing it now? I can't answer for you. I'm not going to sit here and try and make one up. In terms of funding, yes, tax is one of the major issues, but also we've got to look at what we can do as a community. So, for example, if we take the education example, there are lots of students that struggle with their reading. There are lots of people that are now retired that could possibly help fill that gap. There are just small things that we can look at as a community which might actually assist us, which might not necessarily mean that we need to spend a lot more money, but mean that a school could actually have the support from local people. And it also means that we do more stuff intergenerationally. That's just one simple idea, but I know that it's a much bigger piece than that. There's schools where you've got extended schools provision, so these children are sometimes spending more time in a school or in a place of learning than they are actually in their own homes. We need to actually acknowledge that. Our teachers deserve the respect that is due, especially given look at what happened during COVID. Our teachers, our frontline workers were the ones that kept this country going, and yet, where are we now? We're on the front line demanding that they get better pay. But we should have respected them in the first place, because if it hadn't been for the teachers that took in those children, other people wouldn't have been able to get to work. So it does equally a bit, because we've got so many needs that are coming through that the children have, and that's only going to continue to grow. So we need to actually make sure that our teachers are, and the job is, and the profession is attractive, because if we're not actually making the profession itself attractive and seeing it for what it is, preparing the next generation, every single one of you here has had an engagement with a teacher at some time in your life, or more than one, and the teachers are absolutely critical in us doing better for our future. Issue, and it's tough. Blind tipping, it's a major problem. And the reason why I'm smirking on this question is because I just recently had a massive campaign about getting recycle bins in to encourage people to actually do more recycling and actually try to see where, when we're throwing something out, it might be of use to somebody else. So try where we can to free cycle, put it up on Facebook, and just sometimes these very simple things, like what's that phrase, one man's rubbish and another man's treasure. You know, so there's there are means and ways in which we can do this, but it does need a whole community approach. It isn't just the fact that the council isn't picking up the rubbish. There is more to it, and even the garden waste. My garden waste is sat outside my house now for 3 weeks because he didn't bother coming to mine to pick it up. There are so many things that are of absolute irritation to us as a community, and rubbish is one of them, because if we keep the place unsightly, all it does is encourage more people to do more fly tipping. So we can be the change that we need to see on this one, but we also can put pressure on the council to make sure that they're actually doing their part as well. But it's a complete community approach. It isn't just pointing the finger back at the council to do it, there's stuff that we can do as well. So it's a wider one than that. All the change that we need to see, because every single one of us has a voice and it's important to hear it, so that you can actually see what the model looks like. And the reason I think that that is actually key is because how else are we going to create a needs budget if we don't listen to what people need? For too long, we've not been listened to. You've had two key examples here. You've had Wanstead Youth Centre as an example of the council not listening. You've also had what's happening with the NHS, all the signatures, all the people that sign the petition. The councils are not listening. They are meant to be your first line of defence for when anything happens through the government structure. They're actually meant to be able to put in place the things that are vital to us. So when it comes down to grassroots politics, we need to take it back in hand. And to take it back in hand, we're going to hold public assemblies, and we're actually going to have the conversations and set the needs that we need first. That is our primary focus. So that's how I want to bring grassroots politics back to us. So I had lots of days and hours of lots of fun, and for me it wasn't just a youth centre, it's a community space. So it was bigger than that. The service that it provided to the community, it's appalling that it wasn't permitted to stay open. This is also something that I cited in my resignation letter, that I was actually very disappointed with the council for not listening. I think it had over 5,000 signatures, and also the people that camped outside overnight. So I'm getting goosebumps talking about this because it actually hurts. It hurts to take away the spaces and the places that young people feel safe. Wanstead Youth Centre was bigger than that because it was a community hub. And to even then take away the access on the W12 bus to get people to and from that location, it was all planned, and it upsets me because that's just not fair. It just shows you the contempt by which the council is holding you in by not listening to you. And this is why it's important that you have an independent voice so that we can actually really push for the things that matter to us. And only by actually speaking out about these things and challenging the council to make these changes based on our needs. And this is what they're not listening to. They're not listening to the needs of the people, and they weren't listening to me as a councillor, which is why in good conscience I had to move on. But we collectively, and I say we because it takes every single one of us. You can't just push your fit with one, but you can definitely have a much stronger impact with a full fist. So I will be the advocate for change, and I will be pushing to make sure that we actually get the decisions that are right for us. Thank you for the question, and I'm hoping now that I can speak to the fact that I left the Labour Party for this exact reason. So I was a Labour councillor, and I felt that it wasn't aligning with me, and I was silenced. I wasn't able to speak out against the issues that were pertaining to us as a community. And it was the right thing to do to go with my conscience. I wrote a resignation letter that got leaked to the press, and in that letter I actually explained in detail everything that I faced and why I felt it was so important to actually step away from Labour. For me, fundamentally, what I felt had happened was that it wasn't that I didn't still have Labour values, as in Labour 1945 Labour, but Labour has actually moved further and further away from its roots and its core values that I had aligned with. It was extremely uncomfortable for me to sit and listen to Keir Starmer basically just say it was okay to carry on and to block water and aid to Palestinian children. I didn't like that. It didn't align with the person that I am and the person that I grew up to be from this exact area. So as an independent candidate, which is exactly why I'm sitting here today, is I'm not part of the party machine, and I can always do for us, because I see this as giving me the opportunity to channel through me the things that you need. I'm doing this to be of service. And I put my hat in the ring because I felt so strongly that if I didn't put myself on the ballot paper this year, that you wouldn't necessarily have a local choice. You wouldn't have somebody that is bringing back a model by which listening is at its forefront. So for me, my conscience is key, and that's got to be kept intact. I've got to be able to sleep okay at night with every decision that I make. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel. Is there anyone?
And that's fundamentally flawed. And this is where we can really hit harder with the things like the Section 106, and having been sat on the planning committee and having been a building professional, I would really advocate for making sure that the developers, if they are here, and if they are actually coming to our area, that we actually negotiate up front what we want, and in terms of affordable housing, and make that a reality. Section 106, the money is not coming back to us, and that's just not good enough. So we want to actually give opportunities to people who are here and they want to have their roots here and they have their family here to continue to live here, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Section 106, make sure we sort that out, and make sure we have upfront deals with the developers if we have to build for us. That's actually a brilliant question. I think I alluded to partly what I was saying, and the fact that we've actually got to look at some of the preventative measures. So what can we do in the community to actually help ensure that people don't end up going into needing care in the NHS? But in terms of the privatisation bit, I want to tackle that immediately. I don't think the NHS at all should be privatised, and it's got to be also free at the source of use. But we've also got to look quite closely at how we're actually supporting our doctors, our nurses, and every single person, even the people that are cleaning the actual wards. And I'm afraid that we've been willfully inadequate in doing that. So I'm a massive advocate for, and I even stood on the picking line with the nurses and the striking doctors, and I just think that we've let them down. And we've actually got to look at what good could look like, especially as a community, and a community like this that actually does need Whipps Cross Hospital specifically. And in relation to what you said about the austerity, it's hit us all. Everybody's actually been at the front end of that, but we can actually do more in terms of not just the NHS, but where are our workers living? We can look at the housing, we can look at social prescribing. There are so many other things that we can actually look at in the community that ensures that NHS can continue to be an asset for the people. My name is Chanel Johnson, and I'm actually a local councillor, and the reason I'm sat here in front of you today is because I've lived here for over 30 years, and I put my hat in the ring to be a part of this crowd, literally, because I was really disappointed with what I could see in front of me. And I thought, well, I'm a local person, I understand the local issues, and I feel that I can serve the community. And the way I wish to do that is by bringing back the assembly model. I don't know if anybody in here remembers the Area 1 committees. Anybody? I see some nods. The Area 1 committees served us an opportunity where we could actually have an engagement with the community and listen. And I think that's what's fundamentally wrong. I want to bring back an assembly model whereby we can actually speak to each other, and rather than me dictate to you, I'm going to listen to people, and I'm going to actually ensure that we actually have our needs addressed. Because that's where I think we've gone too far over the other side, where we're looking at big manifestos and saying, well, what are you promising us? Well, what do we need first? That should be what my manifesto is led on. It should be what's coming exactly from every single one of you. And I'm one of the few councillors that actually stepped down, cited what's happening in Palestine as one of the reasons why I had to leave the Labour Party. It didn't sit right with me. I wasn't comfortable having what's going on and having that being done in my name. There was a lot of other things that I thought were fundamentally flawed within the council, and because I'm part of that and have been part of that, I actually think I can change it. So that's me in a nutshell.
A group of local people who came together to raise over £33,000 for medical aid to Palestinians. We continue to make space for open discussion in Wanstead and Leyton.